presidential election, at the time where people get really fucking weird for some reason, and they can peacefully express their political opinions and go out to vote while they have shit shoveled into their mouth by every outlet possible, like the dirty pigs they are. Between the senior moment Biden's been having and the whole bunch of other things, the prospects of the election aren't looking great. We're in a situation where you need to pick between two geriatric fucks who are older than Color TV, The High Five, and George Bush. So like Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race, which I'm sure you've seen by now, so just like ignore this next part of the video, I guess. It's not really relevant, but I didn't want to rewrite it, so yeah. What's gonna happen? I don't know. Welcome to Armchair Politics, the show where I usually try to understand, but I just can't this time. Also, this is gonna be a shorter video because I found myself with way less time these days. If I were to bet money, I would say Donald Trump is probably going to win, but it's not going to be a landslide. Nobody wants these people. Biden can barely walk on stage, and it sounds like Trump literally took a shit on live TV. And well, since it looks like Trump is definitely going to win, I want to know what's actually going to happen. And after doing some research, it's, nothing good. In case you didn't read the title of the video before clicking on it, I'm talking about Project 2025, the most recent scheme by the Heritage Foundation that might end democracy. The details of this project are included in this almost 1,000-page document that's so big it lagged my browser to open it. Adobe Acrobat started throwing up errors that I had never seen before. The document describes 4 broad fronts that will decide America's future. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. Secure our God-given individual rights to live freely. I did a full deep dive on this thing. It's so insane that I sound like an actual conspiracy theorist talking about it. And how do they want to implement these? Well, with another 4 pillars. Have you noticed the pattern? They really like the number 4 for some reason, and I can't figure out why. They talk about policy, personnel database, and training, and the first 180 days. I hope you're still with me because however boring it is for me to explain this to you, reading it was a whole lot worse. I know there's 100 videos on this topic already, but stick with me for the next insert time here. The whole thing was organized by the Heritage Foundation and hundreds of other conservative organizations that are insane, but the main one is the Heritage Foundation, and if you haven't heard of them, that's not surprising. They're a right-wing think tank that you can thank for policies like banning abortion with no exceptions, denying the result of the 2020 election, and banning critical race theory. If you see a government policy that seems objectively evil and insane, they are probably behind it. The Heritage Foundation is bankrolled by mostly oil billionaires who have accumulated more wealth than God, and they don't really know what to do with it, so they use it to accumulate more and more wealth while slowly sucking every single dollar they possibly can out of the working class. The whole thing is organized by this guy Russell Vought. He used to work in Trump's administration, and he has the talent of looking incredibly bored no matter what is going on. He describes himself as a Christian nationalist who believes in fusing Christianity and the government, while at the same time he believes in a separation of church and state, so I have no idea what he believes actually. I think we've had enough dystopian TV shows that have run for way too long to tell us that it's a bad thing. He's also behind the Center for Renewing America, which is another conservative think tank bankrolled by billionaires. Honestly, I think I should just become a conservative because it seems like a way better paying job. The Center for Renewing America website is actually pretty funny. Some of its policy positions include fighting against free Wi-Fi in school buses because according to them, this is something that they actually say on their website. This is nothing more than a ploy by left-wing FCC Chair Jessica Rosenwald to subsidize big tech and brainwash kids with government-funded Wi-Fi. They also want to ban obscenity on the internet, and fuck that. It's not my fault obscenity is the only way I know how to express my emotions because of the societal norms that you advocate for, Russell. That's about as far as I got on their website because it broke after about 20 minutes of use. I don't understand how all these websites have more funding than entire countries, and they still have the shittiest UI designs I've ever seen. Together, Russell Vought and the Heritage Foundation have drafted this whole elaborate plan for the Trump administration, and for reasons I'm about to go deeper into, it's pretty bad. The biggest thing about Project 2025 is Schedule F employment. Basically, federal employees are sorted into 2 categories. Everyday federal workers that keep the machine running, like EPA scientists, postal workers, engineers at NASA. This is most people in the government. Then the second category are political appointees, like cabinet members, heads of agencies, and people appointed by the new administration coming in. The service that a think tank and totally not a cult Heritage Foundation offered was basically telling the conservative administration who to hire, and that's how they've historically made the most evil changes to the federal government. But apparently that's not enough anymore, so now Project 2025 is pushing for reclassifying almost all federal employees as political appointees and removing their protections. In theory, say you were a scientist ringing the alarm bells about an impending global disaster, and you called it anthropogenic climate change just so it sounded like the premise of a sci-fi movie, and the sitting president is bankrolled by conservative oil billionaires. The president could just say that you're wrong, and if you keep researching it, you're going to lose your job. Let's also say the same president says something wrong about an impending hurricane, so to make it seem like he didn't make a mistake, he drew on a map with a Sharpie to correct it. This is my AI rendition of the situation. Now, in our reality, the National Weather Service will just put out a statement kind of like this to correct him. But in this terrible reality that we have not experienced totally, they would probably be forced to agree with the president despite him being obviously wrong and hilarious. Even though that would and never has happened, with Schedule F it very much could. Trump actually did instate Schedule F at the end of his administration, but Biden immediately undid it. This is where the conservative LinkedIn comes in. The plan is basically that once Schedule F is instated, the Trump administration can replace dissenting federal employees with loyal conservative lackeys. I don't think I need to tell you this, but if we replace all competent federal employees with lackeys loyal to this guy...
with Florence, this is a tough hurricane. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Is the video still going? I did not decide what video I would put in when writing this. That would not mean good things for the general function of the government. The first 180 days is all the executive orders Trump is going to pass in his first 180 days. The website says that it's a playbook of actions to bring quick relief to Americans suffering from the left's devastating policies. Like what? They already got rid of student loan debt relief. COVID stimulus checks are canceled. The fucking railroad unions got stabbed in the back by Joe Biden. I can't think of any left-wing thing the government has successfully done without these fucks getting in the way of it. Abortion is banned at this point. So how could they possibly make it worse? Well, I am so glad you asked, viewer, and I don't care if you didn't. I can't hear you. The first action includes Schedule F, which is something that you should be well versed on by now if you've been paying attention. And now that I realize it, I probably should have put that section after this section because that makes more sense narratively. Don't talk about my mistakes in the comments because I don't care. In the first 180 days, Trump will follow something called the Unitary Executive Theory, which basically means a whole bunch of things, including that Trump will be appointed God King. It's basically the theory that the executive branch should move at the benefit of the all-knowing top executive, which would be Donald Trump in this instance. Like I said, this all ties closely into Schedule F and the idea that the Second Amendment gives the president full control over the executive branch. And now I realize I really should have combined those two sections, because that makes way more sense. I don't do this because I'm good at it. I do this because I don't know why I do it. After establishing himself as God King, there are a couple other light policies that the project would like to instate, such as outlawing pornography and throwing anybody who produces it in jail. Privatizing weather forecasts because I know how much you love paying a subscription for something that would be free. Adobe, they'd like to get rid of PBS, which just sucks. These people are so evil that they want to kill Elmo. Why would you want to kill Elmo? Project 2025 is going to need staff to prepare for the coming of the Republican Messiah, so luckily they have a plan for that. They have built up a training program to recruit conservative lackeys to join the various organizations of the federal government. It's basically PragerU, but for functional adults and not for edgy teenagers and divorced dads. Or maybe the staff is divorced dads who got fired on January 6th for some reason. The whole idea is to create a workforce that is loyal to the party, which is just some North Korea shit if you ask me. I don't really have more to say about that because I ran out of time. It's just bad. There's something that I have to say that's unique and not enough of these YouTube videos have covered, which is that this project has been in operation for the last 40 years. There's not much in this policy agenda that's new or unique. For the last 40 years, the Republican Party has been defunding schools, cutting Social Security, cutting taxes on the wealthy, and banning abortion. They already stacked the Supreme Court and are making countless historic rulings that are taking away your rights. Ronald Reagan led the charge in lowering taxes and defunding schools. Ronald Reagan is literally the reason we have the student debt crisis in the first place. He made California residents start paying tuition in public colleges because someone in his administration said the U.S. was in danger of producing an educated proletariat, which is something that deserves its whole other video, but I don't have time. The Republican platform and its donors have been executing the same mandates in Project 2025 longer than most of you have been alive. I'm glad that just now the media is catching up with it, but shit already sucks. Don't get me wrong, this whole thing is still very much bad. The difference between the new Trump presidency and the old one is competence. Before, his administration didn't really know what they were doing, and now it's a very different story. I need to be serious for just a few minutes. You may be thinking that all of this seems anti-democratic, and yeah, of course it is. If you don't already know that the party has been restricting democracy for many years at this point, I don't know what to tell you. But what I really want to explain is why they're doing this. Do they just get off on abusing the American population? I mean, yeah. I don't know if you've seen Mitch McConnell's face while he's passing a new kill trans people bill, but he definitely looks aroused. The real motivation is money, which in reality is what everything comes down to. Corporations and capitalism rely on expansion to keep existing. Profit needs to be increasing year after year.
And if your company doesn't follow that, your company will inevitably be consumed by a company that does. Eventually, capitalism will run out of space to expand, and it will need to begin expanding into itself, sucking every single last bit of profit out of the population until it collapses into fascism. It's happened before, and it can certainly happen again. All around the world, far-right parties are gaining power because the market is running out of space to expand. Billionaires and their corporations will not stop trying to accumulate more wealth and power until they are forced to stop. Something like Project 2025 is inevitable because without it, there's not enough room for capitalism to consume. Well, isn't that just fun? I'm feeling way better about this because as of insert date here, Joe Biden has dropped out and Kamala Harris will probably be the nominee, so this whole Project 2025 thing is less likely to happen. Don't be an armchair politician, get involved in a local organization, advocate for things in your local community, because you probably can't make a change on a national scale, but local politics matter way more to your everyday life. Alright, well, like and subscribe, I guess. This shit sucks.